This is Simon coming in. I think this is Simon. You filming as well? There's Simon. Simon's been up some time. The nice thing that Simon did today was he flew to the bottom. He didn't get any lift. I took my chance, caught some lift, and then Simon somehow lugged his glider up very quickly. He didn't take off halfway and launched, and he's been up there ever since. He's done very well. No, not downwind. Okay. The wind's coming from that way, please. Very light. Can you hear me, Simon? The wind, Simon's on your back. It's only 2 miles an hour. It's not a lot. Yeah, you're into wind now this way. Thank you.
Wind's there. Wind's coming this way.
I think he thinks about 360 and he's got a little bit. The wind's that way. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, just concentrate on landing. Oh, low turn, Simon. What are you doing? Naughty. Okay, no low turns like that, anybody. But, assertive, aggressive flair. Come on. That's better. We're just going here where we've got to say, eh? This best bit. Yeah. How was that, Simon?
What a day.
Did you?
God, we went out right over there, Rob.
Right over there?
Yeah, right over there.
What, towards those? What's that called?
Truly beacons.
No, not Truly.
Fell beacons, yeah.
Fell beacon, yeah?
Yeah, that was fantastic. I don't know, how far did we get over there? I followed you out over the road. It was great.
If we kept going, we could have landed on top, but obviously that would have been a bit silly because we would have had to walk back.
I was pushing the boundary a bit. For me, that was a lot of height there.
Good
real nervous.
I think you did very well because you went to the bottom and then somehow I saw you run up 30 steps. Stop.
I saw you two and I thought, bastards. I had to edit that out. I thought, typical. You know, I do the flight of death and you guys go off and hit 2,000 feet.
Was it?
Oh, that was
right.
great
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That was really
Nice,
good.
yeah.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah, you know
It's
that.
beautiful playing up there on your own, isn't it? That's the only way to play Caburn.
Yeah, I wonder where everyone else went. That was at Devil's Tight. Did they go home?
That was, what was that? That was just over an hour. That was brilliant. Really was.
I saw some gliders up there ground handling. I gave them a wave.
All right.
I don't know who they were.
Well, I saw you two tootling around doing your bit,
Doing a bit.
and then I followed you following in the seagulls. It was great.
Yeah, it's very nice actually.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I didn't know there's a tower over there, like an old. No, a couple of.
There's a tower over there.
A couple of miles that way, there's a stone medieval tower.
No, well, it'd be good to see what the track is on that. See how
oh, you've
far
got
we get
GPS. Oh, right, yeah. Oh.
Anyway, great day. Great end to the day, actually. It was.
Well, here we are. This is Dean Bird filming and Rob Chisholm doing the voiceover. The actual area we're flying at the moment is Mount Caburn. Interestingly enough, today we all decided the night before, after an epic day's flying at Devil's Dyke, we would meet at Devil's Dyke as the forecast looked fairly favourable for a morning flight and catch some thermals. The idea of the flight was to take the end of Truly Run and fly off down to Stenning, and if it turned east at the time we went, maybe we'd go a bit further. So that didn't happen. That was plan A. So plan B was go off and do other things for a bit. Simon and I went off and had a cheese and brie baguette, which was very nice. Picked up 2 for Dean and Paul, who'd shot down to Mount Caburn. Now, when we got to Mount Caburn, Trevor Hertz, former student, has said it was more on at Furl and the direction was east, as forecast it would go east. So we had a bit of a catch-22. What do we do? Well, more or less really planned to try and launch off at Caburn in what was relatively light winds on an easterly. Simon did take one and went first, but sadly didn't get it. I went off, but as I went off I couldn't see much because of the sun, as it was on the right, but I did see a bird well over just in where the red glider is at the bottom of the trees. I was maybe 80 feet, winds are light, there's no rotor. I took the thermal, I went up. Dean shortly came in afterwards. Paul Jiggins just down there below on the glider there. And we all had a really nice flight. Simon sadly came up a little bit later, but did get in there, so well done, Simon. Now, Dean's doing a right turn here. I've just been over the back and I'm coming into the frame. And so the air was really nice and easy to play with, but what you'll see in a moment is, as we come around this time, here we are, That's myself, Rob, on a Genevo Sprint, just a DHV 12. It's no wind, so I've got loads of forward speed, obviously, because there's very little wind. And in a moment, you'll see this red kite. Now, the birds are there, you just got to look for them. Normally it's seagulls, but I think there's about 4 red kites now, or at least 2 of them. And you'll just see this bird come into the picture as I make the turn. It's just below, it's just by the hand of, it's flapping away there. So if you're looking to thermal here and there's no ridge lift, what I'm trying to say is there's still thermal activity if you've got relatively warm sun and you've got some cold air. You just got to be prepared to fly away from the ridge and collect that air, and if you don't, you go for a big landing. So that, that's the way it goes. We've only got a 350-foot hill here, I think, so we opted for forward launches, but as the day panned out, we could actually fly all the way across the valley. It would have been potentially possible, I believe, to fly over and land at Firle, but obviously that would be a bit silly. We wouldn't be able to get back to our cars, so we had plenty of time to make decisions because the winds were so light. We could go in the right direction, we could go in the left direction, so we could head west, we could go off to the east, we could go north, we could go south. There was no limitation, so it was a very enjoyable day. The lift didn't really seem to work too well over the back, and as you get to this point where Dean is and I'm over there on the right, we both chatted later, and I think the air was just starting to get to the point where it's forming clouds, and it got bitty and irritable, and it wasn't so much progress there. So the actual better place we found better was to head out the front. There you could quite happily fly, and you could just look down in advance at the fields. You could see the birds coming up. You could just see the thermals. If you were watching, you knew where to go. You just changed your flight. And it was really easy. Once you understand you can leave the ridge and stay up in these thermals, the worst that's going to happen is you'll land in a field and have to walk back. It's not a lot of stress. If you were flying at, say, Devil's Dyke, and you all run off together to try and get into one thermal, one turns left, one turns right, it doesn't make for a very productive day. So if you're more relaxed, as we were on this day, we were already chilled out. Obviously there's only 4 or 5, but there's no ridge lift. It is a case of you forward launch, fly off, go into what you believe will be a thermal. You can take that thermal, and believe me, I was no more than 80 feet above the trees at the far end of the right hand side of the landing strip at Caburn. So that's about 160 feet above the landing area, really. I took the thermal. It's flat field, obviously. There's no wind, so I'm not going to get rotor off the trees, and I go up. So I go up and I have this nice reward. It's less stressful than ridge soaring. So any pilots that are looking to do, not potentially just cross country, but to get away from the ridge, you can do so by catching thermals. Thermals that come to the ridge usually get broken up. If you leave the ridge and go out the front where the winds are lighter, you'll have a far better glide and sink rate because you're not pushing into this compressed air. So once you feel comfortable, as long as there's safe landings, you can always leave the ridge by going forwards, catch thermals. When you get up to that sort of confidence, and you can do that, then as long as you're pilot rated, that is the time probably to look to plan in advance to do your cross country. So Dean Bird here is on a factor 2, so it's quite it's a nice glide, a lot of performance there, and he's in a pod harness. But on this particular day, as long as you can find the thermal, you'll stay up. Now he's got a good glide. He glided well over this A27 here, and the roundabouts coming up. He could have gone further, if he wished to. But the important point is to take on board, he's no longer in ridge lift. It didn't exist in the first place because it was just an easterly wind. A quick look over his shoulder. It's in your head psychologically. You're thinking, go back to the ridge. Well, forget the ridge. It's just something to hit. and it's something to fly around when there's other people in the way. You don't want to have all that confusion. You want to concentrate on your flight, where you're going to, where your next thermal is, and you should be looking down for all these little bits of information, having a good look at what's going on. You don't want to be up there with, I don't know where I am. I mean, in the picture it's obvious to me where Mount Caburn is, but some people may be confused, and you want to be aware of these facts. You don't really want to be flying blind when you're up there. You want to understand where the sea breeze comes from. All of these weather indicators that make a good flight and a safe flight is already there. You just need to learn them. You won't learn this sort of flying in a EP to CP course in your school. You know, this is advanced flying. And I think it's also a good point is if you go abroad on holidays and you go to thermal, it's great, but if you're not used to the environment there, you are going to have a week of, you know, big learning curve. And obviously people go abroad to do these flights where they probably perceive, I guess, this idea they'll come back and be this amazing pilot. Well, that all well, and you know, that's good that you can go to these places like Himalayas where I take people, and you do learn to thermal. That is of course very useful. But when you come back to England, in the southeast especially, our height at Devil's Dyke, for instance, is only 711 feet above sea level, and top to bottom is about 400. It's not a lot of time in distance to actually get out and catch thermals. So you become a better pilot when you fly in the UK, I think, if you can do this. And Dean Bird here, I'm not sure of his airtime, but it's well, we'll have to ask him. But he's been flying 2 years and he's doing really well. Simon will come into the picture later, and he walked up from the bottom after his first flight, and he managed to get back in this lift, and again he pushed out the front, got away from the actual ridge, where again it's easterly. Caburn takes the southwest, so there's no ridge lift. It's only 4 or 5 miles an hour really when it came through as wafty air, but he made use of it. And the plan is to take both of these pilots really and turn them into capable pilots to fly across country on their own, or fly together as a little team. So we'll keep you updated as their progress goes along, what they achieve and their goals, but like everybody, they've got jobs and other commitments. So if you want to ask any more questions about flying and understanding these thermals, I dare say you ask these two guys and they can tell you everything there is to know, or email me, Rob Chisholm at freeflightbrighton.co.uk is the website. You pick my email up there, or join us on Facebook and keep up to date with these two guys who are doing very, very well. They're just in a couple of years into the sport and it's all looking good. Simon, I had a text message in the air. So
Did you?
Yeah.
What was it saying?
I'm not sure. Can we see it from here? Yeah. I'll read it out to you. It's easier. Trevor.
From Trevor, is it?
Yeah, from Trevor. 20 to 5. It got better. Hard work. This is fun. At Furl. Just left home, or left and at home. On the way home, I saw some activity at Caburn. Was that you well out front near Sussex School Shop? Impressive. A bit confused. Yes, Trevor, it was Rob, and it was Dean, and it was Simon. And here's Steve.
We'll get the GPS going.
Please with the keys.